Hello, welcome to our channel. If you're ready, I'd like to start with today's topic.
Alright, we're waiting.
Some people learn to live just to avoid pain, but without realizing it, they become trapped in that escape. Because facing it can break you. But maybe you can't rebuild yourself without first being broken. Why do people try so hard to avoid pain?
Yes, honestly I wonder about that too. Well, okay, it's normal. I don't think there's anything as normal as wanting to avoid pain. Because our brain is an organ focused on pleasure, and naturally it wants to get away from anything that causes it pain as quickly as possible. But then there's our soul, and unfortunately it doesn't mature without suffering. But as you have indeed said, when you make the act of avoiding pain the very center of your entire life, as we previously mentioned and discussed in our earlier videos, you truly can't really step out of your established comfort zone, or, well, allow me to ensure I do not mess this up while carefully erasing here. Or the thing you think will cause you pain starts to grow bigger in your mind, and you begin to fear suffering even more. Unfortunately, there's a kind of balance at play here. In other words, what you run from becomes bigger in your eyes. And naturally, you start to think it will hurt you even more.
But doesn't focusing only on the things that cause us pain actually affect us more negatively?
Yes, that's also true. There's also this aspect. People who are afraid of suffering are generally not solution-oriented. Because people who believe they can find a solution, in other words, people who think they can find a solution in the face of a crisis, who believe they will eventually reach it, feel safer. As a result, suffering stops being such a big problem for them. But do you know what I observe in the people around me and in the sessions I conduct? Usually when people come to sessions, they often say the following sentence: I don't want to suffer anymore. And I give them this answer: that's not possible.
We need to experience pain. We need to experience pain.
This is something that's part of life. So we can't live by running away from it. Then suffering turns into our fear. So I tell them this isn't possible, but let me teach you how to cope with pain. This will help you feel safe.
So could this be a situation where you can't appreciate the good without seeing a bit of the bad first?
Explain what you mean.
I'm saying this for the following reason. If we never experience bad things and are always happy, that would bore us too. It would bore a person. Of course. How would our crisis management skills develop otherwise? Humans are beings who learn by doing and experiencing. How do our experiences and knowledge form? Not by listening to someone else, but maybe by observing. But we can only truly learn how to react by actually experiencing it. And there's a saying like this: always. The lesson that life wants to teach you will keep repeating until you learn it. If you can't learn from the pain you go through, at some point you're doomed to suffer that pain over and over again. In fact, suffering helps you grow a little too.
In other words, for our minds, for our souls to mature, we need to experience pain. Even being able to say no to ourselves is a process of suffering. Because you're depriving yourself of something. You're depriving yourself of something you want to do. But usually, the things we deprive ourselves of are, in that sense, momentary pleasures. And afterwards, those things usually end up being things that harm us, things that hurt us.
Alright, I'm moving on to my next question.
Yes.
What if the pain you're running from is actually what your soul needs in order to heal?
Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about right now. If we truly desire to grow and develop as individuals, it is often necessary to navigate through periods of discomfort and even significant pain. Similarly, in contemporary society, both women and men frequently aspire to achieve and maintain a physically beautiful and aesthetically pleasing body.
Yes.
Aren't the methods for this quite painful and difficult to implement?
Yes.
Dieting and exercising both require a lot of discipline on their own. There are things you're used to when it comes to eating, but you have to give them up. For example, you really love hamburgers, but if you want to have a beautiful, healthy body, you need to stay away from that thing you know will give you pleasure. And that causes us pain. But if we stay determined, we can train our minds. After a while, it actually starts to replace it with something else. We just need to stay determined in that moment. Likewise, going to the gym is also such a painful process. You go to the gym, you sweat, you get extremely tired, your muscles ache, your muscles tear, and so on. You feel completely exhausted, you leave the gym. In the evening, your friends are doing something, but you don't even have the energy to go there. You need to rest. And you adjust your diet accordingly. I heard this in an interview with an Olympic marathon runner. For example, the guy is a marathon runner. He runs over 40 kilometers when he starts. He has specialized in this since childhood and has championships as well. In an interview, he said the following: "Well, after running for a while, whenever I participate in a race, after I start running, my muscles start to ache. My lungs start to burn. My heart starts beating really fast. Because enough blood needs to be pumped to the muscles so that oxygen can reach them, the muscles can get their energy and keep going. If I stop there, my body starts fighting with me like crazy, trying to make me stop." You have to stop. You just can't keep running. If I were to stop there, it truly says I absolutely won't be able to get moving again. But I have discovered that if I don't dwell excessively on these particular things and just consistently keep running, my entire body gradually adapts to it over time.
I can keep going after the pain.
Yes, after the pain comes the adaptation process. That's it. What if you can't give up, if you can't quit? You know, our most important ability is our capacity to adapt, and that's how we grow and learn. Yes, so the very thing we're trying to escape from, that pain, is actually what will help us grow. We shouldn't rob ourselves of our own victories there.
So in this situation, what exactly should we do? What should we do?
What we need to do here is, as we generally mentioned, sometimes yes, we can escape from pain. We may choose not to do this, but we can't keep running away from something forever. It keeps coming up. And if we keep running away, for example, if we keep postponing it or, ignoring it or shifting the responsibility onto someone else, let me give you a very simple example. You're hungry, but you don't like cooking. So you order food from outside or you go out to eat with your friends. Or if your mom or dad is at home, you get them to cook for you somehow. In this sense, you don't want to cook because you don't like it, but one day you might have no choice. What will you do when you have no other option?
I'll have to do it.
Yes. Now, here's what I recommend. While you're still in your comfort zone, meaning you can stop whenever you want, start exposing yourself gradually and learn. Try it out. This will give you experience and knowledge. You can get through the adaptation process more smoothly. But as long as you keep avoiding it, it will only seem more daunting. You'll think, cooking is like this, cooking is so hard, my hands smell like onions, and then I have to wash the dishes, I end up having to do the dishes. My cooking isn't even tasty anyway. Thoughts like, the food I make turns out terrible, will follow one after another. And for us, by the way, this is just a simple example for us. Cooking becomes much more difficult. So these are the processes that negatively affect our motivation. That's why, by gradually exposing ourselves, for example, you wanted to try cooking. If your food doesn't turn out well, if you fail at cooking, well, you can just throw it away and order food from outside. Or you can have someone else make it for you, right?
Yes.
Yes. So in this way, at least we can gradually expose ourselves. Well, as I just said, when we avoid suffering, we also postpone growth and maturity, and sometimes life forces us to do this. We end up having to grow up and mature. Don't rob yourself of your own victories. Gradually, step by step, expose yourself. When it comes to exercising, there's also a pull towards perfectionism here. I know I'm stretching the topic a bit, but there's definitely an element of perfectionism involved. People who think they can't do it perfectly or well also avoid it. They think, I can't do it well anyway. But okay, I want to ask this. So you can't really get started with exercising. You started doing sports, but you can't start doing a good sport. One level. How much would you improve there? You started exercising, but for the first day, I don't know. For the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you only went and were able to walk for 20 minutes. You couldn't do more. In which situation do we develop more?
I can't walk.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, Instead of seeing ourselves as incompetent, just focusing on doing our best at what we can do might actually help shift our perspective.
If you run away from pain, you distance yourself from yourself. But if you approach pain, you return to yourself. Because sometimes the thing you fear the most is actually the thing that will set you free. Thank you so much for this conversation. It was a talk where I better understood that instead of fearing pain, we need to experience it. I hope it was the same for the viewers as well.
I hope so.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, and leave a comment.
Your experiences are very important to us. If we are able to create awareness in you, that makes us happy. See you in the next video.